I have a hypothetical for you, and I want you to be honest. Don't just give me the answer you think I want.
I am always game for a hypothetical, and I promise honesty is my policy. Lay it on me.
Okay, picture this. You are humanity, collective humanity. It's the 7th century. The world is in a bit of a chaotic state. Empires are fighting. Tribalism is rampant. Ignorance is kind of the flavor of the day.
Right. A lot of turmoil.
A lot of turmoil. And you are waiting for a message. You are waiting for the creator of the universe to, break the silence.
Okay. High stakes.
Incredibly high stakes. The channel opens. The connection is made. The very first direct contact after a long, long silence. What is the very first word you expect to hear? What is the opening line of the final revelation?
That's a good question. I mean, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of a religious seeker, or even just looking at the history of religion, I'd expect something authoritative, something that establishes the hierarchy immediately.
Like what? Give me a word.
Worship, or maybe obey, something like fear me, or even just believe. That seems like the standard opener for a religion, right? It's sort of, I am God, listen to me.
Right. Or stop sinning, or, be nice to your neighbor, something moral, or maybe something ritualistic.
Exactly. Start with the rules. Here's the new code of conduct. This is what you do. This is what you don't do.
But, and this is where our deep dive students today, that is not what happened. And if you really stop to think about it, what actually happened is kind of baffling.
It is entirely counterintuitive. It sort of subverts your expectations of what a divine message should be.
The very first word, the chronological debut of the final revelation, wasn't pray, it wasn't submit, it wasn't even peace. It was ikra.
Which means read.
Read. An intellectual command, a cognitive command. And honestly, that one word kind of flips everything we think we know about faith on its head.
It really does.
Today, we're diving into a really fascinating lecture by Dr. HaiderRiza. He takes this single moment, the first revelation, and he uses it to completely deconstruct how we view reality, science, and even our own egos.
It is a remarkable piece of analysis because Dr. Riza is essentially arguing that we have all been reading the book wrong. And I don't just mean the text of the scripture. I mean the book of the universe itself.
The book of the universe. I like that.
Yeah. We're dealing with a source that argues the distinction between, religious knowledge and scientific knowledge is actually an artificial divide that has led us into a pretty dangerous trap.
And we are going to talk about that trap. We're going to talk about why a command to read is actually a safety warning. We're going to talk about why being smart-like, genius-level smart, can actually be the fastest way to destroy yourself if you miss one specific variable. We're going to talk about Satan.
We are definitely going to talk about Satan, or Iblis, as he's known in the tradition, because in this framework, he isn't just a scary monster with a pitchfork, he's a case study.
A case study in what?
In what happens when you have all the data, but you completely lack the right direction.
Data without direction. That sounds very modern. But before we get to the devil and the details, let's start with us, humans, and the way we approach these big questions.
Right.
Dr. Riza opens this lecture by interacting with some students, and he points out a really uncomfortable truth about how we approach learning. He calls it the preconception trap.
Right. So in the lecture, he asks the students a simple question. What is the Quran? And the answers are exactly what you would expect. They say things like, it's a complete code of life, or it's a manual for living, or it's a workbook that tells us right from wrong.
Which sounds respectful. I mean, if I wrote a book, I'd love for people to call it the ultimate manual. It sounds like they're praising it. It sounds like the right answer in class.
It does sound like praise. It sounds like the right answer. But Dr. Riza pushes back, and this is where his critique begins. He says the problem with viewing the text as a manual for your life is that you've already decided what life is before you even open the book.
Okay, let's pause here and really unpack this, because that's a subtle distinction, but it feels massive. What does he mean by that?
It is massive. Think about it this way. Most of us walk around with a pre-installed operating system. We have these fundamental questions that float around in our heads. Who am I? What is success? What is happiness? What is the purpose of my existence?
The big ones.
The biggest ones. And usually, by the time we are, say, 20 or 30, we've answered those questions using our own social or personal frameworks. Our culture tells us the answers. Our parents do. Our friends do.
Right. Success means a stable career, a nice house, maybe a certain number of followers online, and respect in my community. Happiness means, a lack of stress and good food on the table.
Exactly. Who am I? I am my job title. I'm a doctor. I'm an artist. You've built the house. You have the blueprints. You've decided what the structure looks like. And then what? And then you turn to the divine text. But you aren't going to the text to ask, what should I build? You are going to the text saying, I'm building this specific house with these specific dimensions. Can you give me some tips to make it sturdier?
So I'm treating the revelation like a consultant or a home improvement guide. I wanted to optimize a framework I already built and I'm committed to.
Precisely. You are asking, how do I live this life, the one I've already defined, better? You want the text to validate your goals. How can the Quran help me get that promotion? How can it make my business more profitable?
But Dr. Riza is saying that true learning only happens if you are willing to let the text, tear down the house.
Or at least question the blueprints. He's saying you have to be willing to let the text redefine the definitions themselves. What if success has nothing to do with your career? What if life isn't just the 80-odd years between birth and death?
It sounds risky. It's actually kind of terrifying.
Why risky?
Well, because it means I might be wrong about everything. It means my entire life's ambition might be based on a false premise. If I go in open to that, I completely lose my footing.
And that is exactly his point, that vertigo, that loss of footing. That is the nature of true humility in learning. He calls these preconceived thoughts. If you approach the source material with your cup already full of your own definitions, you can't pour anything new in.
So you just end up sloshing it all over the table.
Right. You will only find the verses that validate what you already believe, and you'll subconsciously filter out the ones that challenge your core view of reality.
It's like confirmation bias on a spiritual level. It's a massive echo chamber.
It is exactly confirmation bias. He mentions that this creates a barrier, a hijab, or a veil between you and the text. If I think the book is just a book of rules, do this, don't do that, then that's all I'll ever see. I'll see a list of prohibitions, I'll see a legal code.
And I'll miss the poetry. I'll miss the philosophy.
You'll miss the fact that it's trying to restructure your consciousness from the ground up.
This reminds me of how we treat self-help books. We buy a book on productivity because we want to do more work. We don't want the book to tell us, hey, maybe work isn't the meaning of life.
Hey, chuckles. Definitely not.
If it says that, we throw it away. We say, this book is useless. It's not practical.
Yes, exactly. This book is broken. It told me to relax. We want tools to win the game we are already playing. We don't want to be told we are playing the wrong game entirely.
So Dr. Riza is saying, stop trying to fit the Quran into your life. Let the Quran tell you what life is in the first place.
Correct. He says we have these fundamental questions. Who am I? What is success? And we answer them incorrectly first, using faulty data from our society. Then we try to jam religion into that incorrect answer. And the result is a disjointed, confused existence where we follow rituals but don't feel any real internal transformation.
Which brings us right back to that first command. It's all connected.
It is.
If the book was just a list of rules to help us win our little social games, the first command should have been obey or do this, but it was read.
Yeah.
And that suggests the primary objective isn't just blind conformity, it's a cognitive engagement with reality.
It suggests that the creator wants you to think, to process, to decode, not just to follow.
So let's set the scene properly, because the context here is dramatic. We are in the Cave of Hira.
The Cave of Hira. It's a small, cramped space in a mountain outside Mecca. The Prophet Muhammad is there. He's about 40 years old. He's retreated from society because he's disgusted by the corruption and the idolatry and the social injustice in Mecca. He's seeking solitude and truth.
So he's meditating. He's isolated. He's in this quiet, contemplative state. And suddenly, the silence is broken.
And not gently. The tradition says the angel Gabriel appeared and squeezed him, almost crushed him. It was an intense, physical, overwhelming encounter. This wasn't a daydream or a quiet thought.
This is real.
Very real. And the angel delivers the very first installment of Revelation. Now, for listeners who might look this up, in the book we have today, the Quran, this is chapter 96, Surah Al-Alaq. But chronologically, in terms of when it came down from the heavens, it is number 1.
And the word is Ikra.
Read. And Dr. Riza emphasizes that this is an imperative. It's an order, a command. It's not a suggestion. It's not, hey, if you have some time, maybe check this out. It is a command from the highest possible authority to engage the intellect.
But here is the immediate logical problem that I'm sure you've spotted. And Dr. Riza points this out immediately.
Right.
The prophet is in a cave. He is, by all traditional accounts, illiterate. He couldn't read or write script. And even if he could, There is no physical book there. Gabriel didn't hand him a paperback or scroll an iPad.
Nothing.
So when the command comes down, read what?
That is the million-dollar question. If there is
Yeah.
no text on paper, the object of reading must be something else entirely.
I mean, it's a paradox. Usually when someone tells me to read, I look for a sign, a book, a screen. If I'm in a dark cave and a celestial being screams, read, I'm going to be very, very confused.
Chuckles. You'd be looking for the exit sign. But this is where Dr. Riza shifts our gaze from the page to the horizon. He argues that the command was to read the Book of Creation, the Kitab-e-Khilqat.
Kitab-e-Khilqat, the book of creation. That's a beautiful phrase.
It is. This is a core concept in Islamic philosophy. The idea is that there are two primary books. There is the revealed book, the Quran, the scripture, and there is the created book, the universe, the cosmos, existence itself.
And they're not separate.
And they're meant to mirror each other. They are two different languages telling the same story.
So the universe itself is a text.
Exactly. Think of it this way. If an artist paints a masterpiece, that painting tells you something about the artist's skill, their vision, their soul. If an author writes a novel, the novel reveals the mind of the author. Dr. Riza brings up the concept of ayat.
Right, I've heard that word. Usually it means a verse of the Quran.
That's the common usage, yes, like verse 5, verse 6. But the word ayat literally means a sign, a symbol, something that points to something else.
Like a road sign.
Yes. Dr. Riza uses that exact analogy. It's a perfect one. If you are driving on the highway and you see a sign that says, New York City 50 miles, what do?
I keep driving toward New York.
I
Don't stop.
You don't stop the car, get out and hug the sign and say, wow, I have arrived at New York.
No, that would be insane. The sign isn't the city.
And you don't stand there analyzing the font size and the chemical composition of the green paint while completely ignoring the direction it's pointing. The sign is not the destination, it points to the destination.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Dr. Riza argues that everything in the universe, the sun, the moon, the trees, the intricate dance of a bee, your own biology, these are all ayat. They are signs pointing to the Creator.
So when the angel said read, he wasn't saying sound out these phonetics. He was saying decode the universe.
Look at the reality around you and understand what it is pointing to. This is where it gets really interesting. He references a specific verse from the Quran, from Surah Fussilat, verse 53.
What does it say?
It says, we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth.
The horizons and within themselves. That's the whole syllabus right there.
That's the entire curriculum of the believer. External reality, astrophysics, geology, botany, and internal reality, psychology, biology, anatomy. It's all part of the required reading.
So if I am a biologist looking at a cell under a microscope or an astronomer looking at a distant galaxy through a telescope, Dr. Riza would say, I am technically reading the book of creation.
Ideally, yes. You are looking at a sentence written by the Creator. Dr. Riza uses the example of an airplane. An airplane doesn't fly by magic. It flies because humans use their intellect, their will, to read the laws of aerodynamics, of thrust and lift.
We didn't invent those laws.
Yeah.
We couldn't just decide gravity works differently today.
No. We discovered them. We observed them. Those laws were already written into the fabric of reality. We just learned to read that page of the book.
That's a really cool way to look at technology. A smartphone isn't just a piece of glass and metal. It's the result of us decoding chapters on electromagnetism and silicon properties.
Exactly. Every piece of technology is a testament to our ability to read this cosmic book.
But, and here is the big but that the lecture pivots on. And this is where the host in me gets a little skeptical.
Come on.
If science is just reading God's book, then why are so many scientists atheists, or at least agnostic? Why does scientific advancement often seem to lead us away from religion, not toward it? We seem to be reading the book and concluding there's no author.
That is the critical conflict. That's the central tragedy of the modern age, according to this source. And Dr. Riza addresses this directly. He argues that there is a wrong way to read. You can read and still get the entire message wrong.
Okay, so how do you read wrong? What does it look like?
You read the text, but you ignore the context. The verse doesn't just stop at read. That's only the first word. It says, read in the name of your Lord, Ikra Bismi Rabbika.
Bismi Rabbika. in the name of your Lord.
This, he says, is the safety mechanism. It's the condition. And Dr. Riza spends a significant amount of time on this. He argues that the modern world has become very, very good at the reading part. We have decoded the atom, we have decoded the genome, we have read the stars, we have mapped the brain.
We are excellent readers, top of the class.
We are voracious readers, but we have deleted the second half of the sentence. We are not reading in the name of the Lord. We are reading in the name of what?
Curiosity, profit, power, national security.
Ego, dominance. Look what I can do. Look what humanity has achieved. Dr. Riza warns that knowledge without this spiritual anchoring inevitably turns into arrogance. It turns into he desires. It becomes a tool for the self, for the ego, rather than a path to the divine.
This is interesting. So you're saying that if I study the atom in the name of the Lord, I see the power of the Creator and I feel humble and awestruck. But if I study the atom just to study it,
you see the power of the atom and you think, I can use this to make a bomb and rule the world. Or simply, I am so brilliant for having figured this out. The data is the same. The physics are the same. But the result on the human soul is completely different. One leads to humility, the other leads to destruction.
the knowledge itself is neutral. The container it's poured into determines whether it becomes a poison or a medicine.
That's a great way to put it. And he quotes Imam Khomeini here, right? Which was a pretty striking quote that really drives this point home.
Yeah, that one stood out to me. Remind us of it.
The quote is essentially saying that even if a person studies Ilmiya Tawheed, which is the specific theological science of monotheism, the study of God's oneness itself, if they do it without the name of the Lord, without that spiritual submission and a sincere connection, it will only lead to polytheism and misguidance.
Whoa, hold on. That sounds like a complete contradiction. How can studying the science of one God lead to polytheism? That's like saying studying veganism makes you eat steak.
Chuckles. It sounds paradoxical, but think about the psychology. If you study theology just to win debates at the dinner table, if you study God just so that people will call you sheikh or scholar, who are you actually worshiping in that moment?
You're worshiping yourself, your own intellect, your reputation, your status.
Exactly. You have made your ego into an idol. That is shirk. That is polytheism. You are placing your own status beside God, or even above him. So even the study of religion can be the most dangerous trap if the intention isn't bismi or bika.
That is heavy. It means there is no safe subject. You can turn anything into an ego trip. You can turn charity into an ego trip.
Anything. And conversely, you can turn anything into an act of worship. If a scientist studies a cure for cancer in the name of the Lord with the intention of helping God's creation, that act of being in the lab is a form of prayer.
So the distinction isn't religious subjects versus secular subjects. That's the wrong way to divide the world.
That's the artificial divide. The real divide is God-centric intention versus egocentric intention.
And Dr. Riza argues that our modern tragedy is that we have divorced science from divinity. We look at the airplane and we say, look how smart humans are, instead of look how amazing the laws of God are that allow this to happen.
We worship the reader instead of the author.
That is the perfect way to put it. And this connects to something else in the verse, a small detail but a powerful one. The Force makes a point that the verse defines the Lord immediately. It doesn't just say Lord, it qualifies it.
Yes. Right after, read in the name of your Lord, it says, Allazi Khalaq, the one who created. And then it gets even more specific, created man from alak.
Alak. Let's talk about that word, because I've seen different translations. Sometimes it's clot, sometimes embryo, sometimes clinging substance.
It's a very precise biological term, actually. Literally, alak refers to a leech-like clinging substance. It describes the very early stage of the embryo where it implants and clings to the uterine wall. It's a tiny, bloody, seemingly insignificant blob of biological matter.
Okay, so let's put this all together. You have this grand, majestic command. Read. Decode the universe. Use your intellect. You feel like a giant, like you're being given the keys to the cosmos.
Right. You feel empowered.
And then immediately, in the same breath, God says, by the way, remember you used to be a blood clot.
It's a masterclass in checking the ego. It's an instant humility check built right into the first message.
It's a juxtaposition. The highest potential and the humblest origin side by side.
It is the antidote to the arrogance that naturally comes with knowledge. The moment you start feeling like a god because you split the atom or wrote a best-selling novel, the revelation reminds you that your origin is humble fluid. You are biological matter. You didn't create yourself. You were created from something that you would probably wash off your hands if you touched it.
Ouch. That's definitely humbling.
But it's necessary, because the very next verse says, He taught by the pen, Allama bil qalam. So first, the humility check, then the empowerment. God provided the tools, the intellect, okwil, and the ability to record and transmit knowledge, symbolized by the pen.
And Dr. Riza emphasizes that using these tools is a divine mandate. It's not optional.
Right. He says idle hands and an idle mind are not submission. Sitting in a corner doing nothing isn't piety. He's pushing back against this idea that being religious means rejecting the world or rejecting science.
So it's not about choosing between faith and reason.
No. He says God gave you the pen. God gave you the brain. To not use them is an act of ingratitude. But you must always remember that you are a clot with a pen. You are not the owner of the truth. You are just a student of it.
A clot with a pen. That's a great band name, by the way.
Chuckles. I'd listen to their album. For sure.
So we have this framework now. Read the universe, decode the signs, but do it with humility and in the name of the Creator. Now, I want to play devil's advocate again. And this time, I mean it literally.
Yeah.
Because we need to talk about the devil.
We do. The ultimate case study.
In this framework, what happens when you have the massive intellect? You have the incredible knowledge, you have the reading skills, but you refuse the Bismi Rabika. You refuse the submission part.
Then you get the tragedy of Iblis.
This part of the lecture really struck me, because usually in pop culture, we think of the devil as the opposite of the religious person. We think of him as the guy encouraging parties, drugs, rock and roll, the bad boy.
The ultimate rebel, the hedonist.
But Dr. Riza points out that Iblis was, technically, extremely religious. Maybe the most religious being ever, in a way.
He was a worshiper, a devout one. The source references a very famous sermon by Imam Ali. It's Khutbah 190 in the Naj al-Balagha, which states that Iblis had worshipped God for 6,000 years.
6,000 years. Let that sink in.
And Imam Ali adds this terrifying caveat. We don't even know if those were earthly years or afterlife years. And in the theology, one day in the afterlife can be like 50,000 years here. So we were talking about eons of devotion, of prostration, of praise.
So he wasn't some guy who just hated God from the start. He was in the inner circle. He's a VIP.
He was in the celestial elite. He wasn't an angel by species. The Quran clarifies he was a jinn made of smokeless fire. But his rank was up there with the angels because of his worship and his knowledge. He had read the book. He knew the theology. He knew God existed. He was talking directly to him.
So he wasn't an atheist. That's a key point.
No. You can't be an atheist if you are having a direct argument with God. His problem was not a lack of belief. It was a lack of submission.
So what went wrong? If he had the knowledge and he had the worship, where is the glitch in the system? The source mentions the Adam versus Iblis dynamic.
It all comes down to the moment Adam was created and the angels were told to bow down to him.
And let's be clear, this wasn't an act of worship to Adam, right?
No, absolutely not. It was a bow of respect, a recognition of a rank bestowed by God. It was an act of obedience to God. But the question is, why? Why was Adam given this status? It wasn't because he looked cool. It wasn't because he was made of clay. In fact, the angels were skeptical of Adam.
Right, they asked that famous question, why create a being that will spread corruption and shed blood?
Exactly. They saw the potential downside. But God says, I know what you do not know. And then God teaches Adam, the ilm al-azma, the knowledge of the names.
Okay, stop there. Ilm al-azma, the knowledge of the names. Does this just mean Adam knew the names of all the animals? Like, that's a lion, that's a bear, that's a giraffe?
That's the surface-level interpretation, but most commentators say it's much deeper than just labels. In this context, names usually refers to the attributes, the essence, or the operational laws of things. Adam was given the potential to understand the deep reality of the universe, the science, the spirituality, the potential of creation. He had the capacity to reflect God's attributes in a way other creations couldn't.
So Adam had a cognitive capacity that even the angels didn't have, a potential for learning.
Correct. The angels are programmed for specific tasks. They are pure intellect and submission, but they don't have free will in the same way. Adam had the potential for infinite learning and choice. God displayed this capacity to the angels, and the angels, being pure submission, recognized it. They saw the sign, Adam, and they respected the Creator's command to bow.
They bowed to the potential God put in Adam, not to Adam himself.
Yes, but Iblis refused.
And this is the reading without the Lord moment. This is the test case.
This is exactly it. Iblis had the knowledge, but he looked at Adam, and he did his own analysis. He analyzed the material composition. He said, I am better than him. You created me from fire, and you created him from clay.
He did a material science analysis. Fire is a higher energy state than clay. Therefore, me is greater than him. It's a logical argument on the surface.
He used his logic, he used his reading of the physical reality, but he decoupled it from the command of the Lord. He let his ego define the hierarchy. He thought his 6,000 years of worship gave him a certain status, a certain right. He thought he knew better than God.
He read the sign at him, but he interpreted it through the filter of his own arrogance, not through the lens of God's wisdom.
And in that one single moment of arrogance, 6,000 years of worship were deleted. Gone. Wiped clean. Dr. Riza uses this as a terrifying warning for anyone who seeks knowledge, who calls themselves a learner.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it means you can be the smartest person in the room, you can be the most religious person in the room,
Yeah.
and you can still be Iblis.
You can be a scholar with a PhD in theology, you can have the entire scripture memorized and be walking the exact path of Iblis. If your knowledge makes you say, deep down in your heart, I am better than him, I am better than her.
I am better than him. That's the satanic motto.
That is the core of the virus. And Dr. Riza warns the students explicitly, do not come to the Quran to gather ammunition for debates. Don't learn just so you can prove other people wrong.
Oh, the classic eat dinner debate.
Chuckles. We all know that guy. The uncle who memorizes a few verses just to destroy his cousin in an argument over politics or theology. He's not seeking truth. He's seeking victory.
I have the data, therefore I win the argument, therefore I am superior.
Dr. Riza is saying, that is satanic. Using divine knowledge to inflate your ego is the literal definition of the Iblis trap. Iblis wanted the status of knowledge but refused the context of the Lord's authority.
So, if that's the trap, how do we know if we are falling into it? I mean, I like learning things. I like being right in an argument. Does that make me Iblis? How do we check ourselves?
That's the key question. It's not about not wanting to be right, but about your attachment to it.
Yeah.
And Dr. Riza gives us a metric, a way to check our internal state. He calls it the Noor metric.
Noor, which means light.
Yes. He says true engagement with the source material shouldn't just result in information accumulation. It's not about how many books you've read or how many facts you know. It must result in Noor, an internal light or transformation.
Okay, that sounds a little abstract. Light in the heart.
Yeah.
That's beautiful poetry, but how do I measure that on a stressful Tuesday afternoon when my Wi-Fi is down?
It is abstract, but he gives very practical signs. He says, look at your prayer. Look at your salah. Does the quality of your connection improve?
Expand on that. What does a quality connection feel like?
Well, one of the students in the transcript mentions this, and it's a perfect example. She says that before studying, she would just say the words, Alhamdulillah, praise be to God. It was just syllables coming out of her mouth. But now, after studying the depth of the text, when she says, Rabbil Alameen, lit of the worlds, she feels the weight of it. She sees the galaxies, the oceans, the atoms.
So the resolution of the image has increased. It's gone from a blurry thumbnail to 4K IMAX.
Exactly. That feeling of awe. That is a symptom of Noor. Another practical sign is your character, akhlaq. Do you become more patient after learning? Do you become more forgiving, more humble? Or do you become more rigid, more arrogant, and more judgmental of others?
So if I'm learning more, but I'm becoming more of a jerk to the people around me,
then you are acquiring information, not Noor. You are feeding the clot, not the soul. You are building an Iblis, not an Adam.
This connects to the interpretive bias section too. Dr. Riza warns about twisting the book to fit our own narrative.
Yes, this is a huge problem, and it's the preconception trap in action. He gives a specific, though technical, example from the lecture about the identity of Imran.
Right, the father of Mary.
Yes. And some people, for various sectarian reasons, want to prove that the Imran mentioned in one chapter is actually Abu Talib, the prophet's uncle, to support a specific narrative about lineage. They start with the conclusion they want, and then they try to force the text to fit it.
They are torturing the data until it confesses to what they want to hear.
Exactly. And Dr. Riza says, stop, be honest, be a true reader. Look at the word meaning, look at the historical context, cross-reference with other verses. Don't twist the book to fit your agenda. Let the book twist you.
Let the book twist you. I like that. It's about being malleable, not rigid.
It's about insan sasi human building. That's the term he uses. The goal of revelation isn't to give you points to win an argument. The goal is to build a human structure, to construct a human being who is aligned with reality.
It's character development, not just rule following.
Precisely. The goal of the revelation is to build the human character, the akhlaq, which then naturally leads to correct action rather than just imposing a list of rules on a broken character.
You know what's fascinating to me is how modern all of this feels. We live in the information age. We have more access to reading, than any human beings in history. We have the internet, we have libraries in our pockets, we are constantly obeying the command, Iqra.
We are drowning in Ikra. We doom scroll Ikra for 5 hours a day.
But we seem to be starving for the Bismi Rabika part. We have record levels of anxiety, depression, conflict. We have all the data in the world, but none of the peace.
Because data without direction is just noise. It's actually stressful. Think about it. If I give you 1,000 puzzle pieces, but I don't give you the box with the picture on it, what do you have?
A pile of cardboard that's going to drive me crazy.
It's just a pile of cardboard that makes you anxious. Dr. Riza's point is that the universe is designed to be read as a coherent sentence spoken by the creator. If you break the sentence into individual words and just stare at them, tree, star, atom, money, politics, you miss the message. You just see chaos.
And when you see chaos, you feel fear. You feel lost.
Exactly. But when you read in the name of the Lord, the sentence forms, you start to see the pattern, you see the intent, you see the wisdom, and that brings salam, peace.
It's like getting a love letter, and instead of reading it, you just do a chemical analysis of the ink.
That is the perfect analogy. You can analyze the ink, you can measure the paper thickness, you can identify the font, you have read the physical attributes perfectly, you are a scientist of the paper, but you have completely and utterly missed the point of the letter.
And the point was, I love you.
Science gives us the ink and paper. The name of the Lord gives us the message.
I want to circle back to the listener's perspective.
Right.
Because we have listeners who are maybe driving to work right now. They have a difficult boss. They have a mortgage. They have kids who won't eat their vegetables. This decoding reality stuff sounds great, but how does it help them get through a tough Tuesday?
It's the ultimate practical tool. Dr. Riza argues that this isn't just abstract theology, it's a cognitive framework. It's an app you can run in your mind that changes how you process stress.
Give me a concrete example.
Okay. You have a difficult boss. He's yelling at you for something that wasn't your fault.
Ugh, I hate that guy.
Heckles. We all do. Now, normally your ego reacts. How dare he talk to me like that? I'm important. I work so hard. You get angry. Your blood pressure spikes. You go home and you're miserable.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But if you are reading in the name of the Lord, you shift your perspective. You see the boss not just as an annoyance, but as a sign. As a test situation, you ask, what is this situation teaching me? Is this a test of my patience? Is this showing me that I am too attached to the praise of others? Is this a sign that I need to find a new environment where I can flourish?
You turn life into a classroom instead of a battlefield. You're looking for the lesson, not just reacting to the attack.
Exactly. You get distance, you stop reacting to the surface event, the yelling, and you start decoding the deeper meaning, the test of character. You realize that your stress about the mortgage is based on a definition of success that might be flawed. Maybe peace of mind is more valuable than a bigger house.
It changes the default reactive setting in your brain, from panic anger to observation patience.
It is the only way to find real peace in a chaotic world. If the command is read, then every situation, good or bad, is a page in the book. You don't get angry at a page in a book for being difficult. You just try to understand what it's saying.
That is a much calmer way to live. So to sum this all up, what's the big shift we need to make?
The shift is from seeing this guidance as a rule book to seeing it as a character builder.
From do's and don'ts
to becoming a certain type of person. The rules, the do's and don'ts, are important, obviously. He's not saying ignore the law, but he's saying the rules are a byproduct of the relationship, not the start of it.
Right. I don't steal from my wife. Not because there's a law that says do not steal from wife, but because I love her and I respect our relationship. The action flows from the state of the heart.
Exactly. The character, a clock, dictates the action. If you build a character, if you build the submission, the rules happen naturally. If you just have the rules without the connection, it's just a burden. It becomes a checklist. Did I pray? Check. Did I fast? Check. Okay, can I go back to being selfish and arrogant now?
Transactional religion versus transformational religion.
That's the whole game. He wants us to move from transaction to transformation.
It's a comprehensive roadmap. It really does move religion from a Sunday school activity to a 234th in reality filter.
That is the mission of this deep dive. To show that these ancient texts aren't static. They are dynamic algorithms for processing the world.
I really like the point about the clot versus the universe again. I want to end on that tension. It feels like Dr. Riza is telling us, you are simultaneously small and significant.
You are biologically small, a drop of fluid. But you are intellectually vast, capable of containing the knowledge of the universe within your mind. That tension is what it means to be human. We are dust that can dream of the stars.
But we must never forget we are dust.
Or we become iblis. We become arrogant.
And we must never stop dreaming of and reading the stars.
Or we become animals,
It-
just
it-
consuming and sleeping and existing without purpose.
We have to walk that tightrope every single day.
And read in the name of your Lord is the balance pole for that tightrope.
So for everyone listening, you have your marching orders. Read. Read everything. Read the news. Read the history books. Read the nature in your backyard. Read the faces of the people you love. But always check your intention.
Check the name on the label of your reading. Are you reading for your ego, or are you reading to connect with the source of the text?
So that seems like the perfect place to land this plane. We've taken a journey from the cave of Hira to the modern scientific age and all the way back to the blood clot.
It's been quite a trip.
So here's my final thought for you, the listener, to take with you. Dr. Riza mentioned that we often define success before we ask the text what success is. We have our lists: money, status, comfort, a good reputation.
The standard package.
Here's the challenge. If you stripped away all your current, culturally programmed definitions of success, if you erased the career goals, the bank account targets, the social climbing, and you just sat quietly and asked the universe, what is success? Based strictly on the signs around you: nature, biology, the stars. How different would your life look?
If you read the book of you, what is the title of the chapter you're writing right now? And is it a chapter you are writing in your own name or in the name of the Lord?
That is something to chew on. Thanks for joining us on a deep dive. Keep reading, and we'll see you next time.